to also look into is that like they have these tents now, these medical tents in Central Park. And I was like, that's amazing. These, you know, it's going to help all these doctors. But these tents are being run by like this religious alt-right group. And so New York right now is sending inspectors to make sure that they don't turn away people because they are homophobic, transphobic. So you have good news, but you really have to be analytical about it. And also like, because I'm around people that believe in science and around people that are like community organizers, if I do anything wrong on like social media, they will call me out in a way where I can be accountable for it. And I really wish that people that were on Facebook a few weeks ago posting like, haha, I'm on vacation, this coronavirus is a hoax. Now I see them wearing masks and being like, oh, flatten the curve. I wish they would like be out there and be vulnerable and say like, hey, a few weeks ago, I was like you, I didn't believe in it. And now this is where we're at.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think that helped me because I have a friend in Italy who had sent me a voice message on WhatsApp, just checking up on me. And after she heard about like the first 5 cases of COVID in the US, and I was like, I'm okay. And she was like, well, I just need you to know that it's not going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, you also live in a huge country where like flights come in and out. You know, people from my country have been going in and out, and this is why we are the way that we are. And she explained, you know, how they were living and that they had been quarantined for 3 weeks by then. And luckily also my coworker, my supervisor, she's addicted to dystopian novels. And she, so about 2 weeks before all of this happened, so like the beginning of March, she prepped me, and about a few times a week we would go out during our lunch break and she would say, okay, you need this and you need this and you need that. And I prepared, and I thought she was a little bit crazy in my head. I never said no, thankfully. And I'm so glad that I listened to her because I don't have to leave my house at all.
Wow. And going back to the cops, I saw in this NBC Nightly News report on Friday night that I think it was a third of the cops in NYPD are calling out sick. Now, you know, whether or not corona positive or COVID-19 positive, I can't say, but that was the stat that was touted, was about a third. And then what was also heartbreaking was because of the lack of PPE or personal protective equipment, a lot of doctors and nurses are also getting sick with the same virus that they are trying to get under control and help people with. And, you know, and then of course, you know, the ventilator issues that that broke my heart. That broke my heart to think that, you know, where's the response? There could have and should have been a better response. And to your point, Cruz, I'm pretty sure this brings back a lot of traumatic memories from that region of the country that, you know, what are we talking about, 19 years ago? I mean, 19 years is not a long time ago. And so I can only imagine, and literally that's all I can do is imagine. Meanwhile, you know, I mean, we're talking about basics that I wish doctors and nurses had. And from what I understand, you know, we do hear the good news stories of they're getting more masks, or this other shipment of PPE came in. So there is that. But I mean, if there's one thing that you want, or, you know, a few things that you ladies want Greater Southern Arizona or just the rest of the country to know about, you know, what you are experiencing right now, what would one thing be as of right now?
I want to say like to be in solidarity, especially with people from, you know, people like Asian folks. So like my landlords, they're Chinese from China, and I worry about them because like if they get their groceries, are they going to be assaulted? So how to be a good ally and how to stop these rumors that like, oh, it was the Chinese fault. Actually, it was global warming. And it was also about how we need to regulate, like we don't have safe food systems or healthy food systems. There's not a lot of education. And people make fun of this thing of like, oh, bat soup. Well, like in Mexican culture, we eat like tripas, which are like, like the cow's intestines and stuff. So like, how is that, acceptable? And like, anyhow, so I would just say like, try to be a good ally and make it your mission and tell people like, hey, from now on, I promise that I'm not going to just share things. I'm going to verify it, because I know that, I need to be accountable for my actions, and something that I do unintentionally can it's life or death for people. And, again, be a good ally, check on your neighbors if you're healthy enough to do it, and do it in a safe way. Stop hoarding toilet paper.
Yes, please.
Yes.
Good.
And,
Yeah.
my family has been instrumental as well. We have a Zoom talk, and we're Mexican, so there's like 40 of us and their kids. So, they were sent. So we've been doing this thing where we send each other care packages. So my cousin in Toronto, she got sick, and so she got care packages. Then when I got sick, I got care packages. So I have another cousin in Kentucky, who we're sending care packages now. So, and it's also like messages of hope, which are great.
And Inti. I would say to take this seriously. Don't take this lightly. And I think, it's important to remember that history repeats itself. This is just like our lived experience of what's happening here. And we don't know what will happen, right? We don't know how long this will go on for. And the less we're likely to listen, it could be worse. And I think, like you said, we're not prepared for the kind of loss that we're experiencing and going to keep experiencing for a while. And I think the other thing, again, like you said, Cruz, is to check in with community and find out how people are doing. I think this is also a good time to call up on people and see, what they need and how they are. And if you are privileged to stay home, stay home. I know too many people who are privileged to stay home in this city right now. And I see them on Instagram, taking bike rides, going on picnics, and it drives me bananas, because these are, who is responsible for reproducing this infection. And if you have the privilege of staying home, tip well.
Yeah, absolutely, tip well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Cruz, to your point, so there's a Chinese food place here on Harrison Road on the far east side of town. And, my wife has not been out of the house for she's, we'll take like a drive around the block and that's about it. But it's been like 3 weeks for her. Today she just started working from home. But she has been home for the past 3 weeks though. So we went out to pick up some Chinese food just out of curiosity. I wanted to kind of see what it was like for them over there. It's a restaurant we frequent. I was very happy to see that they're really observing social distancing, because in their main lobby, you walk in, the counters, where you pay, cash registers just off to the right, except they're literally allowing only one person that is not that one customer at a time, and then they ask very politely that everyone else just stay outside the physical building. I was happy to see that, and I asked, "How's business been?" That was my bigger concern, like how's business been, or any other news to speak of. You know what I mean? I was told that basically people are still supporting hardcore, and people still want their Chinese food, which is good, and I was very happy to hear that too. But I drove by another Chinese food place on East Broadway today, and it's regularly, so I don't know what the status of them is, but I mean, it looked closed. it looked empty. And so my heart goes out to them if, and I'd support them. They're not my preferred Chinese food joint, but I'd support them if they were open. But you're right. I mean, because we've all seen all of the reporting of, you know, different forms of discrimination, whether they be direct or indirect, toward the Asian population or Asian American population here in the United States. So yeah, that's a really good point. And so with regards to supporting people and yeah, verifying all the information out there, that's and especially with so much, like, I mean, you log on to YouTube, there's a big freaking banner that says CDC information, like you can't miss it. And there's so much good information out there, but I think people are just not in the habit of seeking out the official sources. And so that's why I try to be a heavy conduit. When about 3 weeks ago, when we had what was it, the weekend of the 13th, I believe it was, when everyone went crazy over here, and all of a sudden everyone was like, you know, the first big weekend for us here was, I want to say, Friday the 13th, Saturday the 14th, I think it was. And I know I'm probably screwing up those dates, but that weekend. And as I was saying, like, a contact of mine, you know, I think she was a little freaked out and panicked, because she kind of went off on why does the media have to use terms like pandemic? Why do we have to talk about the number of cases? And fact of the matter is, these are just tools of journalism: numbers, stats, facts, and figures. It's not, you know, but of course the accusation was, you know, fear producing, fear mongering, etc. So what I did from that point onward was try to be a conduit of good information, useful information, official information. And she kind of acknowledged it later on. I know she did. I know took notes. So yeah, good information. I would say, you know, just pass out good information, because you could either take, I guess, one of the glasses half full that I take away for myself is, you can let this situation control you, or you control it, and you get in control with good information, and you get in control with seeking out the good sources, and not just seeking out the good sources of information, but also letting people know, like, hey, here's an official source of information. So, but what else would you ladies like to talk about with regards to this? Because oh, and to further add to Inti, you were saying that you have a friend in Italy. Friend of mine that we just saw this past October when we went to Barcelona, Madrid, and where else did we go? Sevilla. But he lives in Barcelona, so I've been checking up on him, and he said it's bad over there. He said it's really, really bad. And he, in his own way, he conveyed the same thing. He's like, you know, you guys are still way ahead of, like, numbers wise, right? Like, we're basically not as bad, at least in Arizona. In Arizona, we're not as bad as East Coast or the West Coast. My brother definitely let me know about the West Coast. He's been quarantined for about a week or a month and a week or so. He's just north of the Seattle area, and he says it's bad. It's bad. And so I wish people, like they say in Spanish, corazón que no ve, what is it? Ojos que no ven, corazón que no siente. Like, if you're not seeing it for yourself, it's not getting through to you. You know what I mean? And I wish people would just, whether or not they understand it, my hope is that they just open their minds and their hearts to understand that people are dying in other parts of the country, like where you ladies are at, where my brother's at, where my friend Jerry's at in Barcelona. We were just there in October. Beautiful city, beautiful energy, beautiful country as a whole. And so to imagine everything that he's described, everything that I've seen in the news. So I just wish people would just take it seriously, you know, and just, you know, Arizonans, don't golf.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, Arizona, it's so hot. People are like, oh, the heat will kill the virus. And we're not, in Arizona,
Yeah.
like, it's very spread out. Like,
Yeah.
the air is clean, it's spread out. In New York, it's like you're like a sardine. There's so many people.
Yeah.
But the immune system of New Yorkers and Arizonans, like, it's the same. Like, they're going to they're going to get hit.
Yeah.
So in 2 weeks, it's going to be awful for you guys. And it's awful because I would have, like, had I have been notified about this pandemic earlier, like most Americans, I would have made the decision to go to Arizona and quarantine with my family, because this virus is also targeting an older generation that's going to wipe them out, basically. And also younger people too. Like
Yeah.
the myth that, like, oh, if you're young and you're a woman, you don't have underlying symptoms, you're going to be fine. And that's not the case. I was trying to like frame my thought of where I was going with that, but go ahead.
There's already, and speaking with regards to Douglas, Cruz, you're already seeing, like, I think 4 or 5 confirmed cases even in Cochise County.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh my God, small town America is seeing COVID-19. Yeah, is it a little surprising? Yes, but then again, we shouldn't be surprised. You know, everyone should be prepared. Everyone should be taking this seriously, in my opinion. Let's talk about one of the other misconceptions that you said is going on out there. And I had not heard this one about, you know, if you're optimistic and if you're positive, then it won't get you, because of, like, I had not heard that one until you brought it to my attention.
Oh, you were saying that, Inti, about positive energy, how it fights coronavirus or something.
Oh, no.
Or it was something like, one of the myths was that, like, if you're negative, then you will attract the coronavirus.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. So I think because I was more prepared and took this more seriously before everyone, like, I remember the weekend of the 13th, I had 2 friends, like, traveling California, and I was like, what are they doing? And I think when I was telling people that weekend about me thinking, you know, future forward, you know, if something happens to my mom, I have to be responsible for my sister. They were like, why are you, like, being so negative? Why are you, you know, this anxiety that you're creating, that I'm creating, is fueling fear, and this fear is weakening your immune system. And by weakening your immune system, you're attracting the virus, you know? And I was like, oh my God, I can't. And although I hear that message often, even before the virus, I think that it's really difficult to forget or avoid the fear that comes with a pandemic.